Hey guys, welcome back. First of all, I want to thank you guys for all your comments on the Honda Snowblower auger repair. I'm making this video today because I've had a lot of questions as to why exactly the auger gearbox broke on that Honda Snowblower. I don't have the snowblower in my shop anymore, but I'm going to show you on another snowblower why the auger gearbox broke on that Honda Snowblower. I'll just use this small snowblower here as an example today just to show you. As you remember in the videos, the auger gearbox was broken all around this area, which is quite catastrophic. It means you cannot repair this part. You have to replace all the parts like I did in the video. And it is quite an unusual repair that I have to do. It's really rare that I get somebody come in with an auger gearbox all shattered like the one on the Honda. Alright, if your snowblower is in good condition, you're going to have the shear pins in the shaft and the augers. Like you see right here on the Honda, the shear pins went in sideways like that, but it's the same principle. Now when the shear pin is properly installed and it's in good condition, you can't move the augers like this. They're just going to move slightly like that. They're not going to do a full circle. And on this side here, I took the shear pin out just to show you. And this is what happens when the pin's out. You can move the augers right around without the shaft turning. So basically the auger is just spinning on the shaft. Nothing inside the gearbox is turning at that point. It's just spinning freely. I'm just explaining this really carefully because that was the issue for the Honda blower being broken. So you've got all your shear pins properly installed. You're blowing your driveway one day, you hit a big piece of wood like this and your blower stops all of a sudden and you're wondering, I hope I didn't break the whole auger gearbox on my snowblower. Well, that's why these blowers have shear pins, is to prevent major damage to the auger gearbox. So the way the shear pin works is if you hit something, it's going to break and then the auger can turn freely around the shaft. Then the pressure is released from the auger gearbox. So the shear pins are there for safety measures to prevent further damage to your snowblower, and they're meant to be sacrificed. It's a lot cheaper replacing a $2 shear pin than spending hundreds of dollars to repair the auger gearbox. So the snowblower did have the shear pins on it when it broke, so you're probably wondering, why did it break so much even though the shear pins were installed on it? Well, the reason why they broke is because the augers were actually jammed onto the shaft from rust and years of neglect or not properly taking it apart and greasing it. So on the Honda Snowblower, if someone had removed the shear pins, the augers wouldn't have spun freely. They would still have been jammed on the shaft. So basically the shear pins were installed, but they weren't doing anything because the augers were jammed onto the shaft. So when the guy hit something heavy in his driveway, the shear pins did not do their job, again because the augers were jammed onto the shaft. Thus all the pressure went to the gearbox because the pin didn't break, and then it just broke into pieces. This all could have been prevented if the owner had regularly greased the augers, even if it meant taking the whole front end apart and inserting grease right into the shaft or penetrating oil every year. So basically when you hit something big, it just put all the pressure on the auger gearbox, and that's why it's broken. So again, always do the proper maintenance on your snowblower every fall or spring. If you have to take the augers apart to make sure that they spin freely when the shear pins are off, it's well worth doing that, because if you don't and you hit something big, the chances are that you're going to break a much more expensive part like the auger gearbox. And the way to know if your augers aren't jammed on the shaft, again like I mentioned in the video, is just take off the shear pins and you should be able to spin the augers freely around the shaft when the shear pin is off, just like I'm doing right here right now. And as you see on the left here, the shear pin's in and I can only move it a little bit. So that's why the Honda auger gearbox broke. Also, some of you guys have noticed in the third video near the end of it where I started the snowblower that you can see the auger gearbox move a bit from side to side when I've got the auger lever down and the augers are spinning. Well, that's caused because the owner only wanted to replace the bare minimum of parts. So therefore, I didn't replace the shaft that goes from the impeller to the gearbox. That shaft is probably slightly bent because of when you hit something, and that's why you can see the auger gearbox move a bit from side to side. That's not why the auger gearbox broke in the first place though. It's because the augers were jammed onto the shaft. And I'll just show you from this blower here what I mean. When you look at the third video where I started the blower and make the auger spin, you can see this go from side to side. Well, the shaft that I'm talking about is this shaft right back here. So even though it's not the same shaft as on the Honda Snowblower, it's still the same principle. if this shaft is bent at all, even if it's minimal, it's going to make your auger gearbox move from side to side when you've got the augers engaged. Now the guy has had the blower for a year now. It's still running great, but like I said, it will put a bit of premature wear on the bearing in the back here on the blower and the small oil seal at the back. Now it's not going to make the auger gearbox break, but it would have been a good idea to just replace everything. It was really expensive even to replace just the parts that I replaced in the video. But unfortunately, when people bring stuff and they don't want to spend the money, sometimes you have to take a shortcut. I don't like doing that because then it can reflect negatively on yourself as the mechanic. I did debate within myself whether I should put up the video or not because I saw that in the third video and I thought, oh, I don't want people to think I did a bad job. So if you're a mechanic, just be careful when people bring you stuff and they don't want to spend the full money required to repair the machine properly. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments, and we'll see you next time.